Owen barely slept. Every time his eyes fluttered closed, shadows danced behind his lids. Lucian's smirk, the flickering candlelight, the echo of that strange, dragging sound in the hallway. By the time the first pale threads of morning slipped through the heavy curtains, his body ached with exhaustion. But something was different. The storm had passed, leaving the world outside eerily silent. And that scent, orange and chocolate, it was stronger now, clinging to the air, to his skin, like a whisper of something unspoken. He pulled himself out of bed, stretching out the tension in his muscles. His phone was still useless. No signal, no notifications. It felt like he had slipped through the cracks of time itself. Pushing the thoughts away, he opened the door, stepping cautiously into the hallway. Morning light barely reached the dim corridors of the hotel, leaving everything bathed in a perpetual twilight. The deep green carpet muffled his footsteps as he made his way downstairs. The lobby was empty. The massive wooden counter stood unmanned, and for a brief moment, he wondered if the whole encounter last night had been some fever dream. But then his gaze landed on something resting on the counter. A cup of coffee. Steam curled in the air above it, carrying that familiar scent. Orange, chocolate, and next to it, an antique-looking silver key. Owen's stomach clenched. He hadn't ordered coffee, and yet it sat there, as if waiting for him. His fingers brushed the cup, feeling the warmth seep into his skin. He hesitated, then lifted it, bringing it to his lips. The moment the liquid touched his tongue, a shudder ran through him. Rich, dark, with just a hint of citrus. It tasted like something he should remember but couldn't quite grasp. "You like it," came the familiar low voice. Owen nearly dropped the cup. He spun around, and there was Lucian, standing just a few feet away. The man looked effortlessly composed, as if he had been there the entire time. Today, his dark suit had been replaced with something even more old-fashioned. Charcoal waistcoat, crisp white shirt, a single silver chain glinting against the fabric. "How?" Owen started, then exhaled sharply. "Do you always sneak up on people like that?" Lucian smirked, stepping closer. "You were lost in thought." His gaze flicked to the key. "And in curiosity." Owen frowned. "What's this for?" Lucian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned on the counter, his long fingers trailing absently along the wood. "You came here looking for something interesting, didn't you?" Owen stiffened. "How do you know that?" Lucian tilted his head as if amused by the question. "I know many things, Owen." His voice curled around his name, slow and deliberate. "But tell me, have you found what you were searching for?" Owen swallowed. He wanted to say no. That he didn't know what the hell was going on in this place. But deep down, that wasn't entirely true. The weight of history clung to Scarlet Moon, and to Lucian himself. It was intoxicating. "I don't know," Owen admitted. "I don't even know what I'm looking for yet." Lucian's smirk softened, just slightly. "Then perhaps I should show you." He reached out, lifting the silver key between his fingers. The metal glinted under the dim candlelight. "There is a door in this hotel," Lucian murmured, offering the key to Owen. "A door that only opens for those who are meant to see what lies beyond." Owen's breath caught. Every logical part of his mind screamed at him to be wary. But his fingers closed around the key anyway. Lucian leaned in, close enough that Owen could feel the warmth of his presence. "You may turn back now," he whispered, "or you may step forward and learn the truth of this place." Owen exhaled slowly. His grip on the key tightened. He had never been one to turn back. Lucian's eyes gleamed. "Then follow me, baby boy." And with that, he turned, moving toward the darkened hallway beyond the staircase. Owen hesitated only a second before stepping after him, heart pounding, drawn deeper into the mystery of Scarlet Moon. Owen followed Lucian through the dimly lit corridor, the silver key cool in his palm. The deeper they went, the quieter the hotel became, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Lucian moved like a shadow, his steps silent against the dark wood floor. Owen's heart pounded with every footfall, anticipation and unease twisting inside him. He should have asked more questions, should have demanded answers. But something about Lucian, his presence, his voice, made it impossible to do anything but follow. At last they stopped in front of a door. It was different from the others, older. The dark wood was carved with intricate patterns, symbols that Owen didn't recognize but felt strangely familiar. The brass handle was polished but cold when his fingers brushed against it. Lucian stepped aside, watching him with an unreadable expression. "Go on?" Owen exhaled and slid the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, and with a soft click, the door creaked open. The room beyond was bathed in golden candlelight. It wasn't a bedroom, nor a storage space. It was something else entirely. Shelves lined the walls, filled with aged books, faded letters, and objects that looked as though they had been plucked from history itself. A grand fireplace sat at the far end, its embers glowing faintly, casting flickering shadows across the room. And in the center stood a glass case, the object inside obscured by dust and age. Owen stepped inside, his breath catching. "What is this place?" Lucian closed the door behind them with a quiet click. "A collection," he murmured. "Memories, artifacts, stories." He moved past Owen, his fingers trailing along the spine of a book as he spoke. "You are a historian, are you not? A seeker of truths." Owen nodded slowly. Lucian stopped in front of the glass case. With a flick of his wrist, he wiped away the dust, revealing what lay beneath. Owen stepped forward, his pulse quickening. Inside, resting atop aged velvet, was a dagger. Its hilt was adorned with strange engravings, and its blade, though dulled with time, still held an air of something powerful, something forbidden. "This," Lucian said softly, "is what you were looking for." Owen frowned. "I don't even know what it is." Lucian turned to him, eyes gleaming in the low light. "But you will." A silence stretched between them, thick with something unspoken. Owen could feel it, the weight of history, of secrets, pressing down on the air between them. Lucian took a slow step forward, his presence intoxicating. "You felt it, didn't you?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "The pull of this place. The way it called to you." Owen swallowed hard. He had. The moment he had stepped into Scarlet Moon, something had shifted inside him. Lucian reached up, brushing a strand of hair from Owen's forehead. The touch was feather light, but it sent a shiver down his spine. "There are things in this world," Lucian murmured, "that defy logic, that exist in the space between history and myth." His fingers trailed down, barely grazing Owen's cheek before pulling away. "And you, my dear Owen, have just stepped into that space." Owen's breath came uneven. His heart pounded in his chest, though he wasn't sure if it was from fear or something else entirely. "What happens now?" he whispered. Lucian's smirk returned, slow and deliberate. "Now, baby boy," he said, voice like silk, "you learn the truth." And with that, he reached for the dagger. Lucian lifted the dagger from its velvet resting place, holding it with a reverence that sent a chill through Owen's bones. The candlelight flickered across the blade's surface, illuminating the ancient symbols carved into the hilt. Owen wasn't sure if it was a trick of the light, but for the briefest moment, the engraving seemed to pulse, like a heartbeat. Lucian turned the weapon in his fingers, studying it, before finally shifting his gaze back to Owen. This dagger has not been touched by mortal hands in centuries. His voice was quiet, yet charged with something unspoken. And yet, here you are. Owen swallowed hard. Why me? Lucian took a slow step forward, the dagger still in his grasp. Because you were meant to find it. Owen let out a breathless laugh, though there was no humor in it. That's not an answer. Lucian smirked, tilting his head. No, he admitted. It's an invitation. He extended the dagger, offering it to Owen. Owen hesitated. Every instinct told him not to touch it, that something about this moment was pivotal, dangerous. But he had come to Romania searching for something, hadn't he? The unknown, the extraordinary. And now, it was right in front of him. Slowly, carefully, he reached out. The moment his fingers closed around the hilt, a wave of heat shot up his arm, curling into his chest like fire. He gasped, stumbling back, but Lucian caught his wrist, steadying him with surprising strength. Easy, Lucian murmured, his grip firm, grounding. It recognizes you. Owen's breaths came fast and uneven. What the hell does that mean? Lucian's eyes darkened, amusement flickering beneath something deeper. It means your fate was written long before you ever set foot in this hotel. The weight of the dagger in Owen's hand felt impossibly heavy now. The room seemed sharper, more alive, the shadows stretching, bending at the edges of his vision. This place, Owen whispered, his voice unsteady. This hotel. It's not normal, is it? Lucian's lips curled in something between a smile and a warning. No, baby boy, it is not. Owen's pulse thundered in his ears. The walls around him felt closer, the air warmer. He looked down at the dagger again, its symbols almost glowing now. What am I supposed to do with this? He asked, his voice barely audible. Lucian stepped closer, his fingers still resting lightly against Owen's wrist. That depends, he murmured, his breath warm against Owen's skin. Do you want to know the truth? Owen looked up, meeting Lucian's gaze. It was like staring into something endless, something ancient. And for the first time since arriving at Scarlet Moon, he wasn't sure if he was the hunter or the hunted.